So when you ask the average Christian, who buried Jesus, you would get some response like, or they would say something like, they'll just blurt something like, well, Mary must have buried him, or Peter must have buried him, or some other disciple, right? Which, as any studied individual knows, none of these answers are correct. The real answer is someone who came out of nowhere. He was not a character that had been introduced to this point, and that person was Joseph of Arimathea. Joseph of Arimathea was a rich man who was a part of the Jewish Sanhedrin. If you know what the Sanhedrin is, you know this is the group that condemned Jesus, essentially judicially murdered him. However, Joseph took a form of pity on Jesus. He had not consented to the condemnation himself. He asked Pilate for permission to take down a body and give it a proper burial. Now, this is a very shocking thing for a member of the Jewish Sanhedrin to do. Remember, Jesus was crucified as a heretic, as a person who was leading people away from God, according to the Jewish Sanhedrin, right? So remember, ask Pilate to take down Jesus' body and give it a proper burial. Pilate obviously agreed, and the tomb that Joseph would end up burying Jesus in has become a significant landmark. Destroyed, but still a landmark. Now, why is knowing Joseph of Arimathea's role in the Bible important? There's the purely biblical view and there's the apologetic view. So, from the biblical view, Joseph of Arimathea's and Nicodemus's burial of Jesus ended up fulfilling a prophecy in the Old Testament. If you read in Isaiah 53, you'll read that the suffering servant will be given a grave with the wicked and with the rich. Now, Joseph of Arimathea, along with Nicodemus, fulfilled this rich part, as Joseph of Arimathea was a rich man. Now, from an apologetic lens, Joseph of Arimathea's burial of Jesus is extremely important for many different reasons. One of them being that it's one of the many good reasons to believe that Jesus was actually buried, because it's highly, highly unlikely that the disciples would make up a character from the Sanhedrin, the people who were enemies of the church at the time, and because they were murdering Christians, as we know from Paul's conversion, that he's very unlikely to be made up. Why would they make up an enemy to bury their master, the person they worship? And it also tells us that the Sanhedrin knew where Jesus' body was. If you would read the Gospels, you would know that they put guards at the tomb after Joseph buried him. The Sanhedrin knew, because of Joseph, where the body was. Now, this is significant because what was the Jewish response to Jesus' body being missing? Right? That's what the disciples were claiming. They said Jesus rose from the dead and the tomb is empty. That's what the disciples said. Now, the Jews, you would think that if this was some airy-fairy story, right, they would just go to the tomb, open it up, and say, oh, well, look, Jesus' body is missing. Jesus' body is still there. Christians, your master's there. They're all lying to you. But no. Instead, what the Jews said was, well, they stole the body from the tomb. They know where the tomb is. They say the body is stolen, right? This must mean the tomb is empty. So not only it's a very good piece of evidence for the historicity of the burial of Jesus, but also a very good evidence, it links to a very good piece of evidence for Jesus' tomb being empty. Joseph of Arimathea is an unsung hero of the Gospels, which is very disappointing considering how important his role is, both from a biblical point of view and from the apologetic view. I encourage you to read more about him, and, this goes for all other unsung heroes in the Bible, whether it be Simon of Cyrene, even people like Judas. I mean, I don't think people know enough about Judas. I'm going to make more videos about figures like this because I truly do think it is interesting.